A trail of footprints leads from the forest wing to a farmhouse, but none lead back. Days later, 6 bodies are found inside, killed, then buried. Not just in silence, but with care. The killer stayed, ate their food, fed their animals. No witnesses, no suspects, no escape. This is the true story of the Hinterkaifeck murders, Germany's most chilling unsolved case. "70 kilometers north of Munich, Germany, in the sleepy, snowy countryside of Bavaria, stood a modest farmstead known as Hinterkaifeck. The name wasn't even official. It was a colloquial term, meaning behind Kaifeck, the neighboring village. Here lived the Gruber family. Andreas Gruber, 63, a stern patriarch; Cecilia Gruber, his 72-year-old wife; their daughter Victoria Gabriel, 35, a war widow; Victoria's children, Cecilia, age 7, and Joseph, just 2; and their maid, Maria Baumgartner, who had just arrived on the day of the murders. They were known to be private, maybe too private. Andreas had a reputation for being harsh. Some whispers said more, about control, about secrets. Months before the murders, something wasn't right. Their former maid quit, saying the house was haunted. She heard footsteps in the attic, but no one was ever there. Andreas found a newspaper on the porch from a city no one had visited. No one knew who left it. And then, footprints. In the snow, Andreas spotted a single trail of footprints from the forest to the farmhouse, but no return path, like someone walked in and never left. Even more disturbing, keys started to go missing, and at night, the family claimed to hear noises upstairs in the attic. But whenever they checked, nothing. Were they being watched? Or was someone already inside? March 31st, 1922, Maria Baumgartner, the new maid, had just arrived. That night was her first shift and her last. One by one, 4 members of the Gruber family were lured into the barn. It's believed they heard something or someone and went to investigate. They were killed with a pickaxe, likely the farm's own tool. Then the killer moved inside the house. Little Joseph, just 2, was murdered in his crib. Maria was killed in her room, just hours after arriving. The entire family wiped out in a single night. But it's what happened after that's most disturbing. The killer didn't leave. For days, smoke was seen from the chimney. Animals were fed. Food from the kitchen was eaten. Someone, likely the murderer, stayed in the house. No one noticed until school realized little Cecilia wasn't attending. Mail piled up. Then neighbors got curious. On April 4th, a search party arrived. They found 4 bodies stacked in the barn. Inside the home, Joseph and Maria. The scene was haunting. Silent. Clean. There was no sign of struggle, only brutality and control. Theory 1. Carl Gabriel, the husband who returned. Victoria's husband, Carl, was thought to have died in World War I, but his body was never recovered. Some theorized he faked his death, and returned to find his wife had borne another child, Joseph, whose father was possibly Andreas himself. Was it revenge? A crime of passion? But no one ever confirmed Karl had survived. Theory 2. Lorenz Schlittenbauer, the neighbor. Lorenz was a neighbor, also rumored to be Joseph's real father. He was among those who found the bodies, but his behavior was off. He walked into the locked house with a key, one that had gone missing, and he disturbed the scene before police arrived. Was it shock or guilt? Lorenz was questioned, but released. Theory 3. The wandering killer, Paul Mueller. Some believe a serial killer was behind this, and other remote farmhouse killings across Europe and America. In 2007, true crime author Bill James linked the Hinterkaifeck murders to Paul Mueller, a suspect in the Villisca Axe murders in the U.S. Same MO, isolated homes, families, axes. Could Mueller have crossed the ocean? Again, no hard evidence ever proved it. The autopsies were gruesome. Andreas, face shattered, skull crushed. Victoria, severe head trauma. Little Kazelia, still alive after the attack, clumps of hair found in her hand, torn out in agony. The weapon was likely a mattock, a farm tool similar to a pickaxe, but nothing else was stolen. Valuables remained. So if it wasn't theft, what was the motive? Insanity, revenge, or something far more personal and planned? Even more disturbing, there were signs of familiarity. Whoever did this knew the layout. They used the farm's own tools. They stayed after. They cleaned. Some theorists believe the killer even slept in the house, while the bodies were in the barn. Police interviewed dozens, more than 100 people. In 1955, the case was officially closed. No one was ever charged. In 1986, final interrogations were done, before all investigators retired. Still, no resolution. The farmhouse was demolished, but the legend remained. Today, the Hinterkaifeck murders are more than just a cold case. They've become a cornerstone case study in forensic science programs across Europe and beyond. Students analyze the timeline, the contaminated crime scene, the lack of preserved evidence. Professors use Hinterkaifeck as a cautionary tale, a textbook example of how not to handle a mass murder investigation. No fingerprints taken, no secure perimeter. Locals were allowed to trample the scene. One neighbor reportedly even cooked a meal inside the house before police arrived. In forensic terms, it was a disaster. In criminal psychology, it's a goldmine. The case is also dissected in psychology programs, especially those focusing on deviant behavior, escalation patterns, and environmental familiarity. Why did the killer stay? Why feed the animals? Why make a fire? Why not run? Experts propose theories involving obsessive-compulsive disorders, paranoia-driven rituals, and even intimacy disorder psychosis, a condition where proximity replaces identity and violence becomes connection. But nothing is conclusive. The case is still used in modern criminal profiling exercises, often compared to similar crimes, where the assailant doesn't flee, but blends into the scene, stalking, watching, waiting. Law enforcement manuals still reference it when discussing familicide in isolation, the killing of entire households in remote locations. Beyond academia, the murders have haunted German folklore. Locals refused to settle near the old site for decades. Children grew up with stories of the barn that bled. Artists have painted it. Authors have fictionalized it. Directors have tried to capture it, but failed to make sense of the silence it left behind. The house is gone. The field is quiet, but the fear remains. The impact of the Hinterkaifeck murders didn't just stay in textbooks or police case files. It spilled into culture. Over the past century, the case has inspired dozens of books, radio dramas, even feature films, each trying to offer a different answer, or simply echo the same chilling question: who did this? It became the blueprint for rural horror: the remote farmhouse, the unexplainable noise upstairs, the killer who never ran, and the family who never stood a chance. In Germany, the name Hinterkaifeck invokes a kind of quiet reverence. It's rarely joked about. It's treated like an open wound, unhealed but constantly poked at by those who crave an ending. Internationally, it's gained a cult following in the true crime community, debated on Reddit threads, reconstructed in YouTube deep dives, and dramatized in Netflix pitches that never quite get it right. But perhaps the most disturbing legacy is how it changed how people live. Locals in post-1922 Bavaria began locking their doors for the first time. People stopped trusting neighbors. Petty disputes became fueled by suspicion, and small communities across Europe became haunted by the thought: if it could happen there, why not here? Psychologists call this collective trauma echo, when a horrific event fractures the perceived safety of an entire population. The Gruber family wasn't just killed, they were erased inside a space that should have been sacred: their home. And that fear traveled through generations, through stories, through silence. A farmhouse forgotten, a name whispered, and a killer still watching from the dark pages of history. 6 lives ended in silence. A community shaken, a killer never found. The house is gone, but the mystery remains. So, did you see any clues?